The thing you most need to do is the exact thing you will not do today. And somehow, you knew that before this sentence even finished. Say there's this guy, Leo, 32, a designer, decent apartment, decent life. On his desk sits one task that could genuinely change his year. A proposal that has been almost ready for 11 days. 11 days. And in that time, he has reorganized his entire bookshelf, learned to make cold brew, and answered every email a human being has ever sent him. Everything got done, except the one thing that mattered. Sound familiar? Here is where it gets interesting. Leo is not lazy. By any honest measure, he is a productive person, clearing small tasks all day long, fast and cheerful. The trouble is almost surgical. It targets one task only, the important one. So why would a brain quietly sabotage the single thing its owner cares about most? The answer hides in something that fires a full second before Leo even touches the file. And that thread comes back later, once the inside of his head starts to make sense. Picture the moment Leo glances at that proposal. His brain does not run the numbers, it runs a feeling. In a fraction of a second, it asks one blunt question. How badly is this going to hurt? The proposal is a wall of unknowns. How long will it take? Will it be good enough? What if it gets rejected and the whole thing has to start over? The brain loathes unknowns. To its oldest layers, uncertain reads as dangerous. So it does the only thing it knows how to do with danger. It defends. And the defense wears a friendly mask. It looks like a quick scroll, a snack, a sudden noble urge to clean the kitchen. Leo opens a video about deep-sea creatures and his whole body relaxes. Because deep-sea creatures are safe, predictable, and ask absolutely nothing of him. There it is. The twist almost nobody sees coming. Procrastination is not a failure of discipline. It is a defense mechanism against emotional discomfort. Leo is not lazy. Leo is afraid. And this is exactly where most people grab the wrong tool. They decide the answer is to feel the fear and bulldoze straight through it. Grit the teeth. Take yourself in hand. Force it. It backfires every time. Because the harder you shove yourself through a must, the more pain the brain stamps onto the task. You are not motivating yourself. You are teaching your own mind that this thing equals suffering. So next time, the wall is taller. Watch Leo try the brute force route. He sets a timer, cracks his knuckles, opens the file, and runs straight into a slab of concrete. No thoughts, no words, just a low hum of dread and a cursor blinking like a tiny accusation. 5 minutes later, he surrenders, closes the laptop, and reaches for his phone. Now there is a fresh layer on top of the fear. Guilt. Want to know what is strange? There is a way to walk straight past this whole mechanism, and what it triggers afterward is far weirder than simply getting the work done. Hold that thought, because the real payoff lands near the end. For now, the trick itself, and it is almost insulting in how small it is. Shrink the entry point until it is too tiny to be feared. Not finish the proposal, not work for an hour. Just open the file. That is the entire instruction, and nothing more is allowed. So Leo tries it the gentle way. He promises himself he will only open the document and read what is already there, with no obligation to add a single word. He opens it. He reads the first line. His brain stays calm because there is no task, no threat, nothing to brace against. He drifts to the second line, spots an ugly phrase, and fixes it almost by reflex. Then, without ever deciding to, he is writing the third. His fingers are moving. The dread is gone. He is not forcing anything. He is just typing. He looks up. 40 minutes have vanished, and a third of the proposal is suddenly there. Here is the catch that changes everything. The brain was never afraid of the work. It was afraid of the commitment. Strip the commitment away, and the guard simply goes off duty. There is a name for this, the 2-minute rule. But not in the sense of work for 2 minutes. In the sense of making the first step so absurdly small that the alarm system never even wakes up. To feel it for yourself, try a tiny experiment right now. Think of the thing you have been avoiding. Do not do it. Just open it. Or set a timer for 2 minutes and give yourself full, genuine permission to quit the moment they are up. Most of the time, you will not quit. Because the hard part was never the doing. It is that single step across the threshold of fear that guards the start. And remember that question from the beginning. The one about why the brain hunts the important tasks specifically? Time to bring it home. Because important is, by definition, uncertain. Small tasks are cozy little knowns. Washing dishes takes 10 minutes with a guaranteed result. Answering a chat takes 30 seconds and lands cleanly. But the proposal? Its length is unknown. Its quality is a gamble. And whether it comes back drenched in red ink is anyone's guess. The brain treats every one of those unknowns as a crouching predator. So big things get delayed far more than small ones. Not because you lack character, but because your brain has quietly filed them under threat. There is something else going on too, and it has to do with time. The brain runs an accounting trick called temporal discounting, which is a fancy way of saying it values right now far more than later. The discomfort of starting is here, sharp and immediate. The reward of finishing is somewhere out in the fog of next week. So, to your ancient circuitry, the math looks obvious. Dodge the pain now and let some future person deal with it. And here is the quietly disturbing part. Brain scans show that when people imagine their future selves, the activity looks almost identical to imagining a complete stranger. Read that again. The version of you who has to finish the proposal next Tuesday? Your brain barely recognizes him. It is happy to dump the work on him the way you might cheerfully volunteer a stranger for a chore you would never touch yourself. So when you procrastinate, you are not being lazy. You are quietly betraying a person you do not fully believe is real. If that landed a little too precisely, there is one more layer coming that almost nobody talks about. Stay with it, because here is the move people reach for instead, and it rests on a myth: willpower. The story goes that willpower is a kind of inner muscle, and if you simply had more of it, you could march yourself through anything. Real discipline, no excuses. But willpower behaves far more like a phone battery than a muscle. It is a finite charge, and every time you drag yourself through a don't want to, the bar drops a little. By evening, it sits near empty, which is exactly why the same person who held a line all morning melts into snacks and an endless feed by 10 at night. The willpower did not vanish because you were weak, it drained because that is what batteries do. So procrastination cannot be beaten by sheer force, because it is wired deeper and older than your willpower will ever be, down in the survival circuits that kept your ancestors alive. It cannot be defeated head-on, but it can be slipped past entirely. Back to Leo. He has the small step trick now, so every morning he opens the file just to look. No commitment. Day 1, 2 paragraphs. Day 2, 3 more. By day 3, he is so absorbed he forgets to stop. A week later, the proposal is finished, and Leo stares at it slightly stunned, because he never once felt the moment it became easy. And the instant that quiet momentum took hold, a switch flipped somewhere behind his eyes that he never consciously felt. What flipped? This is the strange thing promised earlier. The moment you start in tiny, pressure-free steps, a completely different machine spins up inside the head. It is called the dopamine loop, the brain's reward chemistry firing on small wins. One small step, and the brain hands over a microdose of dopamine, a little hit of good. Another step, another hit. Bit by bit, the task slides from terrifying to honestly kind of satisfying, because now it is wired to reward instead of dread. There is a sharper version of that small step move, worth trying on your hardest task. Do not just shrink the time, shrink the words. Not build the whole presentation, just open one blank slide. Not do the taxes, just find one document. Make the verb so small, the guard never even stirs. And there is a second quiet ally most people never notice, the Zeigarnik effect, which simply means the brain hates leaving things unfinished. Once Leo had started, those open paragraphs began to nag at him gently, pulling him back to the desk on their own. The very thing that made starting so hard now made stopping hard instead. Which brings that switch into focus. The moment you genuinely begin, the amygdala, the brain's smoke alarm, the part running your anxiety, goes quiet. And the prefrontal cortex, your inner planner, the part that handles logic and action, finally wakes up and takes the wheel. The wall was never the work. The wall was the half second before the work. And here is the strangest part of all, the thing worth sitting with. The version of Leo who finished was not braver than the version who hid, and he did not suddenly find discipline. He was simply the one who agreed to a step so small it felt like nothing, and let his brain catch up afterward. Courage did not come first, with action following behind. Action came first, in a dose too tiny to scare anyone, and the courage arrived later, quietly, as if it had been waiting the whole time. Procrastination was never a crack in your character. It was your own brain, doing its clumsy best to protect you from a danger that does not exist. So what is the one file you keep almost opening? Drop it in the comments. Name it out loud, because naming it shrinks it. And if Leo felt a little too familiar tonight, the subscribe button is right there, waiting for your next small step.